into the True Vibe podcast. Here, we help you connect to your true vibration, expand your energy to authentically align you to your highest vibrational self. I'm your host, Mary Mcmanical. I am the energy expansion coach, here to guide you to connect with your intuition and energy to embody the person you desire to be. Now let's vibe, tribe. Hey, True Vibe Tribe. Welcome back. Thank you so much for listening. I love this episode because we talk all about financial literacy, financial empowerment. I prided myself after this episode. I'm like, Mary, you asked really good questions because I was definitely asking a lot of questions for myself because Angela is definitely the expert when it comes to all things money and finance. So a little bit about our guest, Angela. She was raised in Section 8 housing, welfare, and began working at a young age. Her journey has been marked by resilience and determination. With 25 plus years of personal finance study, Angela has honed her expertise to inspire hope through financial literacy, healing through teaching others about money, finding purpose in a world that is loud. I love this episode. I want you to jump right in because this was such a good episode. Hey, True Vibe Tribe. Welcome back. Thank you so much for listening. Today we are with Angela from Florida. How are you, Angela?
I'm doing amazing, Mary. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you so much for being here. This is going to be a really good conversation. So I'm just so excited to dive in. One of the things that I feel so called to ask you is, why is being financially literate so important, especially as women? Because I know for a really long time for me, I'm all about feminine energy. I'm like, oh, go with the flow, whatever. When I started my business, and then I'm like, oh my God, I don't know my numbers, which I'm sure we can go there. But for people listening into this conversation, why is that important for them?
Yeah, so I think it really is from my childhood. I'm a survivor of childhood poverty and abuse. And I left that situation as soon as I was able to sign my own lease. But what I went on a journey to find is this tool we call money, because I truly believe that my mom, if she had better financial education, that my childhood would have been different, right? And so I never want another woman to feel like she's stuck in a situation, in an abusive situation, or something that doesn't serve her because she just doesn't know money. She doesn't know any better. So how can I create a platform to teach women and just keep it really simple, really basic, so that it can help them take control of their own future and, just live their best life?
Wow. Yeah. That is so empowering and I would love to also dive into how your childhood shaped your money beliefs and if you overcame them, because I remember my mom was a single mom before kids and she struggled. And I still think about this to this day. I found this out in my adulthood life where she really wanted to divorce my dad because it was emotionally abusive, and she didn't have the money and went to family members and they wouldn't help her. And my heart breaks thinking of that. And I know I carry some of that money trauma. So can you talk a little bit, Angela, about how based off of our childhood, our parents' beliefs around money, how that impacts our money situation and even our success with money?
Yeah. So on this journey about learning about money, I've learned that your subconscious mind is formed by the time you are 7 years old. So if you think about it, especially like business owners today, could you imagine a 7-year-old trying to run your business? What thoughts did they learn? All comes from your parents, good or bad, all of that information is still in your mind. And so when you're thinking about like, how do I break the cycle? How do I become more financially independent? We still have to start with our childhood. What is it that you were taught at that young age that is not your truth today, but it's still there? So until you really understand where all that information came from, and you work on that healing process of, I need to change that narrative. I need to change what I was taught to what I believe today. And it takes a lot of time for you to do this. And for me, coming from poverty and living in a motel room or other people's houses. All of that trauma I'm bringing to my adulthood, but I have to remember that it was there. That was my story then, but it's not my story today. And really spending every day intentionally reminding myself and replacing that information with the version of me that I see today.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that because I like how you put it. Okay, it would be like a 7-year-old running your business, and it is essential that we have to go back and look at those beliefs. And is there a specific belief that you really had to work through a lot? I know there's a lot of women who listen to this who are entrepreneurs or want to start their own coaching and healing business. And I hear all the time, well, Mary, I'm scared to charge. I'm scared of receiving money. And I know just through my own work, it's not feeling good enough, not feeling worthy. I'm curious, what do you feel like your opinion is, and what was maybe one of those stronger beliefs that were playing out when you were a kid, and how did you work to overcome that?
Yeah, I hear the same thing too. Women we're afraid to charge for money, right? But
Yeah.
you have to take the emotion out of money, right? So for me, I think about money in a different aspect. It's a tool. So I imagine I have this toolbox in front of me. I have a car that takes me to some place. I have a pen that, I like to take notes with. These are all tools that I use in my everyday life. So money is just another tool. It doesn't have emotion tied to it. But I still struggle with this. I could charge more for my services, definitely. But you have to know that you have value. And a lot of times as women, we think what we know is common sense. And it's
Mm,
definitely not.
yeah.
What I know about money has taken me 25 years to learn, and I'm always going to be a student, always learning. But I can give back that information to people, and we're just exchanging of time. I'm giving them time, they're giving me money. So I think of it more as an exchange versus, am I worth this? Do I have value? And those are a lot of the same similar things I think I was taught as a kid, is like, you don't need money.
Mm,
Well, you kind of do, you got to pay for this house that you live in, pay
yeah.
for gas. I'm a Christian woman, so I want to give back to my church because a church is a business. It needs money to operate. So I have to think of it more of an exchange and as a tool. And then it just kind of takes that emotional piece out. And then I don't feel so like scared or nervous, like that gut feeling that we get when we talk about money. And
Mm,
so you changing that perspective and how you view what money is, I think really helps people to get past the emotional part of
mm.
whatever the trauma is or whatever they were taught about it. And then you use it today for its purpose. What do you need it to do for you?
Yeah. Wow. You mentioned something big there where that I really want to dive into, which is like feeling that fear. You said being scared of money. I know a big part of my journey was having to rewrite my money story because I would have some amazing months in my business and then I would plateau because I knew I was like in energetic shock. I had all this money coming in and then I'm like, oh, I need to get rid of it. I need to spend it. I need to, oh, let me do this. And so how do you create, because I work with attachment styles with clients. That's definitely an anxious attachment. Let me get rid of this. How would you start to form a secure relationship with money?
Yeah, and mine is similar, but for a different reason, right? So coming up in poverty, when I start to make money, I think it's gonna leave. Like I
Mm,
grew up in poverty. I
yeah.
know what that feels like. And then you kind of just like hoard it and hold on to it instead of reinvesting in your business. So I love how you say like you've got to figure out where that emotional attachment is coming from. And then you've got to do the work to break that attachment. And there's many different ways, many different coaches. For me, I've always had coaches in my life. So if someone is struggling with that, I definitely recommend that they find a coach to help them break that attachment so that they can replace it with something different. Because if you don't break that, then you can't put something new there because it's already in that space. So coaching, mentors, find someone that works the way that you want them to help you heal so that you can go through that process. And that way, especially as women business owners, if you don't break that attachment and allow and give yourself permission to have abundance, your
Yes.
mind is never going to look for it. You're never going to seek it out. It's not, the opportunities are not going to present themselves, right? If you don't let go of that attachment, that negative thought that's still there.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, because what that's such a golden nugget of what you have to break that because you won't seek that. And I know I had this realization. I read something once about having like an income. it was basically how do like what do you see how much money you feel worthy to call in every month. And because if you say I'm only worthy of 5,000 a month, 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, then you will always subconsciously, maybe you make 30,000, but you're like, nope, I only deserve 20,000. So you spend that 10,000. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, and my coach is actually working with me on this right now because, I think about, oh, this is my income goal right now. He's like, well,
Yeah.
instead of making it a yearly goal, let's make it a monthly goal and let's see if you can hit it. And it's scary, right? Because I'm like, oh, well, why are you changing that? I thought it was a year and you're telling me it's a month. And so now it's like my brain has to readjust to all of that. But, and I tell this to women too. They're like, I'm not sure what to charge. And
Yeah.
I say, well, what do you think you should charge? And they give me a dollar amount, say like, $500. I said, okay, your new fee is 1,000. And they're
Yeah.
like, what?
Yes.
Well, you deserve 1,000, don't you? Aren't you worth 1,000? Well, yeah, but I don't want to charge that much. I said, it's not that much. You have to create the value system there so that people understand what they're getting for that trade, that exchange of that tool money. And so, yeah, you just have to kind of push a little bit, right? You got to push that person through that and
Yeah.
understand that if someone says no, it's okay. They weren't the right fit for you. Go on to the next person who's looking for you, who's looking for your service or your product, and they're going to pay for it because they're going to see the value that you're presenting.
Yeah, I love that. I love it because it's like, okay, it sounds like what I'm hearing is like, okay, here's what I feel comfortable is this 500. And you're coming in, you're like, well, what would be possible if you charged $1,000? And it's like what I sense in that, it's like it really got her out of her comfort zone, which is amazing. And so, can you talk to us a little bit? I know you have your book, Empower Your Money. Can you tell us what that means?
Yeah. So Empower Her Money is my brand. But I did have a coach that helped me with this book, James Malachak. He's written, I don't know, 30 books and speaks on huge stages. So I tend to think he's a little bit more of an expert than I am. But he was telling me that the five like most Googled words, right, is like you, your, money, guarantee, free, and sex.
Mm.
Well, I can't use sex in a money book. I could, but that's not something that I would want to write about. So I changed the word to your because I really want it to be about the person who picks up the book to read. And I
Mm.
wanted to write a book that had 101 tips that you could walk away with today to implement into your life tomorrow without needing a dictionary to go look at a financial term. Because if you're just starting on your financial journey, it can be scary and overwhelming. So I want to reach that audience. I want to teach them something they can do in their life today so that they can start on this financial journey. Now, I plan to write more books that will go, a little bit further in depth after that, but at least this is a starting point for people because that's what I hear most from people. I don't know where to start. How do I
Yeah.
even get out of debt? It's like, let me help you with just small items so it's not so overwhelming.
Oh, I love that because the small things are essential because I know I've been there and you're looking at, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm drowning. And it's like, we're in the baby pool still. Like we're good. And so I love that. And I kind of want to switch gears a little bit and even like dive a little bit deeper because you, I know, are very big on saying your trauma, turning your trauma into your triumph. And I know you had a very challenging childhood, but can you talk a little bit about, because I feel like there's someone listening who is maybe letting their trauma right now define who they are as a woman. I feel like they're letting their trauma say, this is the reason why I'm not worthy of money. So can you tell us a little bit about how actually your childhood and the trauma that you went through has actually made you even more worthy to be running a business, to be writing books, to helping women?
Yeah, I really think it helps me be more empathetic to
Mm.
people who come to me and ask for money advice because I've been there. I understand what they're feeling. I understand what their fears are. But I
Yeah.
also understand that although I went through what I did as a child, I survived. So being in debt, not knowing about money is not necessarily something that's going to take your life away, right? So giving yourself some grace that whatever you were taught, but it doesn't define who you are today. And so really thinking about, what do I want this version of myself to be? And it sounds kind of silly, but have a conversation with yourself. Go look in the mirror and say, am I living to be the person that I want to be today? And if the answer is no, or if you're feeling like heavy or that sadness because you know you're not being the best version of you, what can I do? Small things. What can I do to change that? Like, for example, for me, I'm very protective of the way I start my day and the way that I end my day, because that I can control, right? Whatever happens in the middle with business and everything else, I can't control. But if
Yeah.
I can start my day in a way that's best for me, then that I'm going to do. And at least, 5 minutes. If you can give yourself 5 minutes to start your day in a positive way. For me, I like to write. So I
Mhm.
will write in my gratitude journal and just talk about the things that I'm grateful for. And it's simple. I'm outside, I'm in Miami, so the weather is amazing most times. I'm sitting outside with my dogs, and I'm grateful that I have two dogs and they love me, right? And I'm grateful that I love myself. I'm grateful that the sun is shining. So it's just little things that you can be appreciative about that just helps start your day with that like good heart feeling. Women, we feel things. So I love just being able to be intentional about that start. So give yourself that 5 minutes to start your day, and you're going to see a huge difference in the way that you feel and act throughout the day when you put that into your everyday process.
Oh, I love that, Angela, because I am very big on balance. And you mentioned a word there that I know a lot of women listening to this, including myself, we struggle, which is control. And I like you put it in a healthy balance, because it's like, oh, I have control in the morning and at night. I can fill up my cup first, but then whatever happens in the day, I can surrender, I can release, because we know as business owners, as experiencing life, we don't know what's going to happen in the day. So that's a really beautiful healthy balance of having the control, but then yes, the being able to surrender throughout the day. And so this question just came to my mind because I was thinking about this client who was actually having a lot of money blocks, and energetically, because I work on the energetic side, I'm like, girl, you have no boundaries. Of course, the money's not going to come in, because if you have all this money and people are going to say, hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you help me with that? So I'm curious, how do you see not having boundaries impact the amount of money that you're willing to receive and accept as a woman?
Yeah. A saying comes to mind, and that I've heard quite often is, you can, give someone a fish so they can eat for a day, or you can teach them to fish and they can eat forever. So especially when you have people who are asking you for money, think about that. Are you really helping them by just handing over a check or giving them some cash? Are you truly helping them? No. Sit down with them and find out, what's going on in your life, what's creating this situation that you feel like you need to come to me to ask me for money that I have earned. And coach them, teach them something that you've learned, because if you can help them learn differently how they're, maybe approaching their finances, or maybe they're in debt, or they're spending too much money, maybe they've got just a really simple skill that they can use to create some additional income. Teach them what you're doing so that you can help break that cycle for them. And if you're not someone who's a coach, that maybe like yourself, maybe they're not able to help them unpack some of that, then recommend for them to go and seek some help, because we're not just changing that person, right? You're changing whoever is in their life. You're changing maybe their children's life. And to know that I would rather have that impact be something that lasts forever than just handing them that money, and knowing that you handing them that money is not helping them. It's not helping you, but there is a way for you to help them and take it from a different approach.
I love that, because I think it's important to have those boundaries around money. And I love how you shared it that way. Yeah, like I could give you this fish, or I could teach you to fish. And it's so interesting, because most of those people probably would be like, no, never mind. You're selfish, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, actually, I'm being selfless. I'm giving you the knowledge and wisdom that has taken however long to get there. So that was really helpful. I know that will help someone. And because even I'd like to expand a little bit further. And I think this is definitely something I struggle with, is because when I am in this place where business is flowing, I'm feeling abundant, and I will sometimes have a limiting belief, or I'll have a thought come in of, of when I think of people who are in impoverished communities, people who are in, you grew up in Section 8 housing, and my heart then pours out. And so, but then I try to navigate it. Well, Mary, it's a mindset, right? Because like, look at a woman like you who's made it out of there. And I like to think of like Will Smith because he grew up in Philadelphia and I'm somewhat close to Philadelphia. And so I like to try to remind myself, Mary, it is a mindset because I have my life hasn't been perfect. I mean, I had a single parents of 4 kids. So, but I'm curious, like, what would you suggest for someone who then is still maybe like for me still struggling to say, well, I have this money and but I sometimes feel the emotion around it is guilt, right?
Yeah.
So what would you share around maybe letting go of some of that guilt and detaching from that?
Yeah. For me, I would say, so where's the guilt coming from? And if you said a thought like there's people that live in different countries that don't have the money or the access, or, maybe they don't have, they don't have a way to listen to podcasts or to get on YouTube. So they can't go get what we think is free information. Well, then take some time and set aside a budget and maybe create a group of people.
Yeah.
For me, I would go through my church and go serve them so
Mm,
that I can see that I am giving back to them with the abundance that I have been provided. And
mm,
now it'll help you kind of take away that guilt because you're helping them now.
yeah.
Instead of just thinking, oh, this imaginary person in some country who you have these visions that we see on TV, right? They're starving. They look like they haven't eaten in 12 years. Well, how do I help them so that I can move through this guilt? It's always, for me, it's about taking action and doing something positive
Mm.
and giving in a way so that the abundance I'm receiving, I know is going through something good too, and not just to me.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that because also as you were sharing that, I was getting like a visual where what I'm thinking about them, usually it's in the time where I actually am maybe more so like having not the best month. And it's like, Mary, fill up your cup first. Because I'm sometimes thinking, oh my gosh, like, why am I not hitting this income goal? And then I'm like, no, there's people worse. And it's like, Mary, fill up your cup first because I love that you said that, Angela, because I truly believe God wants us to have empowering people to have money in our hands. One of the things that I know I'm going to create in this lifetime is a nonprofit for animals, for rescue animals. So I love you saying that because it's like, if you're listening to this and you're maybe thinking the same thoughts as me, it's like, yeah, start to do some research. Maybe I'm not in the position right now, but I'm starting to speak about it more and put it out there to the universe, to God. So I love that share.
Yeah. And if you can't afford to give money, go give time.
Mm,
You can, there's all these nonprofits that would love to just have a helping hand. And so if you don't have the money to give back yet, and you're still feeling that guilt about making money, go give time. I truly believe that when you give and you feel great about yourself too, that's when that abundance and those opportunities start presenting themselves.
yeah. Oh, I love that. And like I have the mindset of unlimited possibilities. So it's like you might go there and you never know who you're going to meet. You might meet someone who could help them propel you to then be in a situation where you can get money. So I'd love to take it like, let's, now that we've like explored maybe where people are at right now in their life, maybe what they've been struggling with, let's fast forward it a little bit and let's talk about ways where we can make more money or some of these ways to start to manifest and bring in more money. Can you share some tips and give us your secrets?
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, so definitely start with where you were or where you are. You need to know your income and your expenses and how much do you have left over, right? So that's the money you're going to take and invest. And my first piece of advice in my book is to invest in yourself first, which means if you're wanting to invest and grow your money, you need to become a student.
Mm,
So some people like to invest in the stock market. I do have part of my portfolios in the stock market. I don't do it myself. I'm going to seek out someone and I interview. A lot of people say 3, right? The number 3. Interview several people in the field in which you want to invest and make sure that your values align with them. It's not necessarily the return that they're going to give to you. You have to feel like you trust them. You're going to hand them your money that you work so hard for, right? So trust for me becomes over kind of performance, right? And so if you haven't started investing at all, my number one recommendation outside of finding the expert is a retirement. You've got to think about your retirement, whether or not you're 20, 30, 50, you have to invest in your retirement. It's the one thing you cannot get a loan for. Buy a house through with a loan. You can buy a car with a loan. You can go to school with a loan. Your kids can get a loan to go to school. Do not put them first. Put your retirement first. So you should be maxing that out before you invest anywhere else.
Yeah, I love that. That is such great advice because it's like you don't think of it now. And then when time comes, you're like, crap, I wish I had actually thought about building that financial future. And so, I had a really good question that was like screaming in my head that I wanted to ask. Just give me 1 second because it'll come back. Um, it was so good. It'll come back, but I guess one of the things to that I really wanted to ask and just like so the listeners can get a true like feel and sense of, I mean, if they haven't by now, because you have gone through so much, what does resilience mean for you, Angela?
Resilience to me is I never stop taking action. I
Mm,
know that the more that I can implement into my life, the better I can become, the more people I can reach and teach. I'm always a student. And so it's not just about the knowledge that you're gaining, it's about the action you take from that knowledge. You can go and learn all about how to be super fit and healthy and from a book or from a movie, from YouTube. But if you don't implement it into your life, then I really feel like you're wasting your time. So become the student, learn, but you've
uh,
got to create action. You've got to do something with that information.
oh, I love that because even I just like got a vision of someone, maybe it's not even in regards to money, but it feels like someone listening to this is like, oh, maybe I do want to start that business. And they've been looking and researching. And I think a lot of people stop themselves because they're scared to put themselves out there. But yeah, put in that action because what good is it if you die and you have all this wealth of knowledge and you never put yourself out there? And so my
Yeah.
question, oh, go ahead. Um, my question came back to me, which was, what I'm curious if there's ever been someone who gave you some financial advice or maybe any sort of word of wisdom around money that has stuck with you and has fueled also what you have done and are creating.
Yeah. So I'll tell you where the advice came from first. So my first investment, I walked into the bank where I had my checking account and I had $100, which at 18 years old, growing up the way that I did, I thought I was, I've got a lot of money. I want to invest. And so I can imagine the financial advisor who sat with me and she's just like, okay, you got $100. Great for you. But, she was answering my questions and she's like, here's a pamphlet. And she gave me a pamphlet and, this was 25 years ago. It was a mutual fund. I mailed my check off to this mutual fund. I'd never invested before. And I just, I thought she was the expert. And so I mailed my check away. And by the end of that year, I lost $20. Well, that's 20% of my investment. I was like, oh, well, you're an idiot. Like was really hard on myself. Right. And so I lived with that for a little bit. And then I got around some incredible women. So I always seek people out. When I see someone that I feel like is doing great or they look like they're an expert in a field, I'm going to go and ask them questions. And I don't ask for a ton of time. I was just grateful enough. I had these two women that worked for the bank that I worked at that gave me their time. And what I learned from them is they spent a lot more time with their clients, getting to know them before they made a recommendation. And I think we can do this as business owners instead of just selling our product or service, which doesn't feel great as a woman. Take the time to get to know your client, figure out what their needs are, what their goals are, so that when you do ask them for money in exchange for your time, then you feel great about it because they're paying you to help accomplish their goals. And so that was something that they taught me was always put the client first and get to know what they need from you. Because when you come from your heart, they learn to trust you and it just makes it an easier transaction. And then you feel great at the end of the day because you got to help them accomplish their goals. And so it's a different way of thinking about, just service and in general.
Mm, I love that because it's like, hey, I'm actually getting to know you as a person rather than like, here, let me just take your money. And so, Angela, for people listening who, I feel called for like the women who are listening who maybe are in a relationship and they're wanting to start to invest in themselves and they want to go talk to their husband, their partner, or even, maybe they're a single mom and they're feeling guilty that I want to invest in myself, or they, just anyone in general. But let's look at really just women who are in a relationship and they want to invest in themselves. What would you share for a woman to go about having that conversation with their partner about putting money, investing into themselves?
Yeah, I love the conversation. I do get this one often too. So having a conversation for the first time, especially with your spouse or your significant other, can seem tough because they might think, oh, are you planning to leave me? Like, why are you asking about this now? Because it's not something we've talked about before. So I switch the narrative a little bit and come at it this way. I say, if, something were to happen to you tomorrow, God forbid, we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. I have no idea what our financial house looks like. And I don't know what your wishes are, so can you teach me what you've learned, what you do to help our family? And then ask them, like, how can I help us reach our financial goals? So that way you're coming from contribution and you're giving them this soft talk so that they don't think that, oh, you're you talk to a divorce attorney or something like that, right? You truly want to learn at least some basic information. And maybe you don't want to dive super deep into everything that's going on, but you need to know what that financial house looks like. So sit down and have a conversation, like, show me where do we invest and how can I help our household, reach their goals? And I really think that when you come from that type of contribution mindset and heart, knowing that the man is very logical, then it just helps that conversation a lot more versus, being the emotional woman and, oh my God, I don't know what we have. I don't know money, they don't want to deal with that. So just sit down and have a logical conversation with them because they know how to speak logic.
I love that. I love, like, me. I think, okay, setting the intention that, hey, I want to contribute. And also, because I like to look at the energetic sides of that. And the energetic sides of that is that could really grow your relationship because maybe you're avoiding these conversations about money and just, like letting your husband handle or whoever, letting handle it. You're saying, hey, like, let's grow as a couple because that can be a taboo topic to bring into a relationship.
Yeah. And maybe you don't go to Starbucks 7 days a week because you see how much it's adding up to. And now you've got goals together. And I'm going to go to Starbucks once a week now. And he can see that you're helping. He's more likely to teach you and include you because I feel like the men, that's part of their strength. They want to take care of the person and they want to teach. And so it's great for them to allow them to have that piece in your relationship and then you guys grow together. So I love that too.
Yes. And so I'm seeing, I'm getting like a vision of someone who, because you mentioned, okay, paying $7 for a coffee. And I think so many of us, and I know I have call them my money leaks, my energetic leaks, where maybe we want to invest in, or we want to invest in food, like, I don't have money right now. And, but it's like, well, you're spending $7. I don't want to spend $7 on coffee because it's bad.
I have a hack for you though. I have a hack. If you are a Starbucks drinker, it's an app called Card Cash, and you can go buy gift cards. So what I do is I buy gift cards. I bought one today. It was 7% off. So I'm already saving 7% on a habit that I don't want to give up completely, right? But it's great because I can buy gift cards. Best Buy is such a great app, especially during the holidays. Don't buy more than what you need. But when I need it, I go buy the gift card that I need. And sometimes I'm going out to seafood restaurant with friends. I know myself. I can get a gift card on like 20% off. So instead of feeling like I'm coming out of pocket for a dinner, I just saved myself money, which is allowing me to spend, but saving at the same time. So using tools that we already have in place, things that we don't know about to help our financial, help us reach our financial goals quicker.
Ooh, okay, I love that. I wrote that down. So if you're listening, I wrote that down too. That's a great tip and a great hack. And so Because also one of the things I was wanting to ask is how do we start to reframe our mind? Because maybe we're saying, I can't invest in myself. How can, and I know there are women who are really wanting to invest in themselves. They are ready, but they're letting their money stop them. How can they start to reframe their mind where maybe it's like, yeah, let's actually get real. Like if you were to have, God forbid, or you had to shell out, like your car broke down or you had to get that fixed, like would you find money, right? So can you share maybe a way for us women how we reframe that mindset? So it's like, well, I want to invest in myself. Yeah, let me find that money. Let me find that $1,000.
I'm a visual person, so you can't see it, but behind me, I have like this 6-foot whiteboard, and I'm always jotting down ideas on it because then when I'm sitting here, in my office, I'm seeing it constantly. So if investing in yourself is a goal of yours, but you just don't know how to get started, write it down first and make it visual. But in your visuals, like visualization, make sure there's photos there too. Like who's with you when you accomplish this goal? Who are you helping? Who are you teaching? What does it feel like? So if it's, I want to buy a house someday, print out some photos of different houses and put it in front of you so that every day your brain is matching with your heart. Your heart says, I want a house, but your brain is now, how do I find this opportunity so that I can make that happen? Because when you tell your brain what to do, it's just programmed to look for that opportunity. Great example. Everyone knows that if you're buying a car, all of a sudden you see that car everywhere. And it's not because there were more cars, but it's your brain looking for that information. So make it visual. Whatever your goal is, make it visual so that your brain constantly remembers, oh, I should be actively looking for this opportunity.
I love that. Yes. Start to see it. Yeah, I love that because I know I struggle with a long time of like, actually, like, I'm like, I want these things, but I don't really believe I can. And now being, I have on my vision board, literally, I do need to update my vision board, which is an amazing thing. On my vision board is literally my dream apartment, my dream view of the beach. But I know when the opportunity came, when I was like, oh my God, I have the opportunity to be in my dream apartment. I had this moment of scarcity. Well, Mary, you're going to have to pay a lot more than what you're paying right now. But I took it as, okay, I'm going to use this as fuel to even put myself out there even more because now I have more expenses. So I need to then generate more money. So I guess, can you like talk a little bit about that? Is like when you are saying like, hey, I believe in this, I'm worthy, of how to really hold that abundance mindset when that scarcity comes in.
Yeah, I approach that with a logical. So if your goal was for that apartment, right? Next to the view of the apartment, the dollar amount. So you're already giving yourself permission to spend that dollar amount. And then you need to back into that a little bit. Well, if it costs, $1,000 or $2,000 more a month than what I'm currently paying, what are the steps that I need to take in order to create the income so that my brain says, oh, yes, I've earned this apartment. So when the opportunity came to you, instead of saying, okay, now I have to pay for it. Well, if you take it from, starting with the goal and going backwards, you've already implemented those steps to get to there. So when the opportunity comes, you're still going to have that feeling. You got to know that's always going to be there. It's never going to go away. It just gets a little bit smaller as you work on it. But that initial feeling, and then you're like, wait a minute, I've already put this plan in place. I've got this. That way you're giving yourself permission to go ahead and take that opportunity that you've already asked the universe for. It's delivering it to you. You put in the work and the steps to get there. Now you just have to say yes.
Oh, okay. I love that because I'm all about energetic balance and I just kind of like want to like break it down and let me know if I'm hearing it correctly. So it's like, okay, we talked about put the vision board. Maybe you're putting your dream car on there, right? And like, okay, that's the fun, feminine energetics, but let's look at the masculine energetics, the logic. And you're saying, okay, this dream car is going to be X amount of money. Maybe I'm paying, this dream car is going to be $1,000 a month. Maybe you're paying $500 right now a month. So, okay, I know I need to start to work up to start to, almost like as if you were paying the $1,000 a month. And then so then you're already saying, okay, I already have this money going out. Essentially, I already know that I'm paying this. And then it's therefore when that opportunity comes, you're like, oh yeah, I can pay $1,000 a month.
Yeah, absolutely. And whether that's creating income or cutting out expenses,
Yeah.
just making sure that you're already in that habit so that when it comes, it's nothing different than what you're already doing.
Yes, I love that. Okay. Yeah, it's reverse engineering the process, which is one of my favorite things to do. Wow, this was so amazing. I feel like I am so knowledgeable now, and I know people listening that this was really, really helpful. So, Angela, what are the ways people can find you, work with you, get your book? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, Empower Your Money is the name of the book. It's on Amazon, so you can definitely check it out there. To follow me, Empower Her Money, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, podcast. Would love to have you listen and give a great review as well, just so that we can reach more people with our message.
Amazing. Those will all be linked in the show notes. Definitely go check that out. Go follow Angela on Instagram and let her know what you're taking away. I've taken away so much from this conversation. And Angela, so the final question, which I ask every True Vibe guest, since we are the Living Your True Vibe, meaning the energy we want to feel within ourselves and then the energy we want to share with the world. So for you, Angela, what is your true vibe?
Yeah, mine is, and the song that comes to mind every time I say this is, I have a light behind me, and I feel like it is my responsibility to shine that light on the world. And for me, that's just creating a positive environment. And the only way I can do that is constantly working on myself to be a positive person.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I can so feel and sense that light. It's you are just, your vibe is someone who is just like, oh, you know, she's powerful, but you're not intimidating at all, which is really, really beautiful. You're just being you, which is that light. So thank you so much for sharing that light with all of us today.
Yes, thanks for having me.
And everyone listening, thank you so much for listening. This was a really impactful conversation. Go share this with a woman you know, a friend who maybe is struggling with money, but even just to help inspire them, because we all have things that we desire and you are worthy of it. So go help impact the world, go help impact women, and we will get our money. We will be in our money and our abundance. So thank you so much for listening. I will talk to you all in the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode and are ready to help others connect to their true vibration, share this with a friend, hit subscribe, and leave a review to let me know how this podcast has impacted you. Other ways to connect with me, check out the show notes to follow me on Instagram at MaryMC4, or check out my website, truevibewellness.com. Sending you all the love, all the light, and all the highest vibrational energy.
Thank you so much for tuning into Empower Her Money podcast. Hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget to subscribe, share this podcast, and leave a review wherever you are tuning in.